Thanks to Green Corn Project, bushels of nutritious homegrown food have made it to the table since 1998, when they first dug in to help people find self-reliance in organic harvests from the soil. Their 10th anniversary celebrated 130 gardens all over town, built by volunteers who wanted to learn how to garden while helping others.
A new garden usually takes about 4 hours to build. We'll come out, we'll build it, we'll plant all the seeds, we'll bring the compost, we'll bring the seedlings, and then after that, it's really up to you. We put in new gardens every season, and then we go back and refurbish older gardens, and eventually gardeners become what we call self-reliant, where either we just provide compost seeds and starts to them, or they may be even beyond that point where they're just doing it all on their own.
At Travis Heights Elementary, teacher Brian Tyner applies science and math in the garden planted and tended by his 4th grade bilingual students.
Measuring and estimation are a big part of 4th grade curriculum.
This one's 76.
What they've been doing is taking, periodic measurements of the plants in centimeters, and we'll take that information, compile it, and create a line graph. So that's a real-world application that we can take out of the gardening project and do for math.
Along with nurturing their plants to new heights, the children measure their success in many ways.
We walk by the garden every day coming in from recess, and you start to see the kids' faces light up and get excited when they see the red tomatoes, like, oh my gosh, and I think it's just those aha moments that the kids get when they realize, oh, we've taken this from seed to fruit. I think that they're just learning an enjoyment for gardening, learning about life cycles and getting to see these things with their own eyes.
It's really great to see those kids get really excited about it. I had one little kid tell me he was going to be the jalapeno man, the flaming jalapeno man, and he was going to grow jalapenos at his house. It was so precious.
Thanks to their school garden, some of the kids want to try it at home. Green Corn's ready to dig in for this homework project the whole family can share.
It's not so much about feeding the kids, obviously. It's about education. It's about teaching them about where their food comes from and what is in season. How come there's tomatoes all year long at the grocery store, but in this garden we have to wait until June?
Green Corn also responds to veteran gardeners who need a helping hand.
My husband and I started gardening in the early 80s. We were inspired by Robert Rodell's organic gardening. It's important to have fresh organic food. The secret of a good garden is having good soil, living soil. Stan made most of the things out here. He says, well, you've done the garden, but he did all the work, so I just get to put the icing on the cake. The barrels are a form of raised gardening, and with my husband and I, disabilities that we have, it just makes it easier to not be stooping and bending over.
They were doing fine until they needed a bigger garden like they once tended.
I was diagnosed in 2003 with carcinoid cancer, and it affects my ability to absorb food. And having fresh food every bite that I eat needs to count, and so it's real helpful to have good food, quality food, and fresh food is the best. A friend of mine told me about Green Corn. I had given up on being able to do a vegetable garden because neither Stan or I could dig a garden anymore. And when I talked to her and she told me about Green Corn, and I got in touch with them, and they were so nice, and they sent over the day we agreed on, they brought these beautiful young people to work in the garden, and they dug, and the birds were singing, and the children were laughing and working, and it was just like flowers in my garden. They were just delightful. And those are memories I'll always have.
To celebrate their 10th anniversary, Green Corn applied to the Trail Foundation's annual auction for a Lady Bird Johnson Adopt-A-Garden.
One of the issues is that our gardens are on private property. They're on people's backyards or they're at schools, and if someone's interested in really seeing what we do, we can't just say, here, go to the east side and go to this neighborhood and go to this person's backyard. So this is a way for people to really see how you can garden in a small space. You can garden in not really the greatest of conditions. I mean, we haul water from the river. There's no irrigation here. People are like, I would have never thought that you could even put vegetables next to, there's ornamentals and there's other plants here. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, I wouldn't really thought you could mix the two, but this actually looks pretty good. A lot of people come, including myself, and realize this bed is actually doing better than our beds at home. I don't know what it is, the light, the temperature, all the love it gets, people running by, but it's doing great. We found there's a lot of people that have gotten really attached to this garden. Every time I come up, there's people here, they're like, oh, I've been waiting to see if the tomatoes are ripen, or there was a bad storm and they were worried that something had happened to them. And so we ended up having a conversation about gardening and, you know, how they might be able to garden in their small space.
Suzanne was new to gardening when she first volunteered with Green Corn, so she knows what it's like for the gardeners she helps get started.
I can tell them, don't worry, you know, before I started doing this, I killed every plant within a 10-foot radius. You know, I think it calms them down a little bit that you don't really have to be a master gardener to grow vegetables successfully. I've since become a master gardener, which is kind of funny that, you know, 3 years ago I killed all the plants and now I'm a master gardener, but it just goes to show that once you start gardening, you can't stop.
I've learned a lot about gardening because I feel like I have 130 gardens all over town, and every one of them is different, you know, and some of our gardeners know way more about gardening than I do, for sure, and it's great to be able to learn things from them. If you want a mentor, we try to match up gardeners with mentors, and that's really a big part of our program that we're trying to strengthen. So we're always looking for volunteers who are interested in mentoring our gardeners, which is a really fun way to meet people like Joan, who are just lights.
There's a lot of life lessons in gardening. You know, you learn as much from your failures as you do your successes. Like us, it's a work in progress.